What's up YouTube, Dave from Wargames, bringing you one of my favourite decks, and that is Satellarknight. Now this is the deck that got me back into Yu-Gi-Oh! During the Duelist Alliance days, and it is incredibly fun to play. The artwork is also very nice, and the whole archetype itself is very cool. Now it did get a couple of hits down the line. It did eventually win Worlds, I believe 2015, I believe, not 100% sure on that one, or the exact date on that one, but it did do Worlds. It's never actually had a direct hit. Like, I think the most direct hit it had was losing Patelamais, and the hopes are, or the rumours are, that in the OCG they're getting an errata for Patelamais, or they already have got errata for Patelamais, which would be very nice to see back with Satellarknights themselves, because Satellarknights are still incredibly fun. And they're still very worth. Like, you can do it with Demise as well and go on a more heavy back row kind of route. But it would be nice to see what would happen if Patelamais does come back with its errata. You know, I think when it came out, it should have had what Patelamais has, and that is can only be made with 2 Satellarknights, or 2 Tellarknight monsters. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to crack straight through the deck. It is still one of my favourite decks. Absolutely love it. And it was nice to kind of bring this back out of retirement, just to show you what it can do. So, for the monsters, we play triple Satellarknight Deneb. This is your searcher of the deck. You know, quite straightforward on that one. Triple Satellarknight Altair. This is your reviver of the deck. Obviously, you get him on board, and it brings back. Now, the best thing about Satellarknights is their effects go off when they're summoned. So, they very rarely, if at any point, miss timing, and they can revive and just play off whether they're normal or special summoned. Triple Unukalai. Now this is your Foolish Burial of the deck. This just dumps a Satellarknight to the graveyard, which can be very helpful to combo off with Satellarknight out here. And of course, one of my personal favourite cards in the deck, and that's Satellarknight Skybridge. So the way Skybridge works is you would normal summon Unukalai. Unukalai would dump Deneb to the graveyard. You would then activate Skybridge, turn in Unukalai, or putting Unukalai back to the deck, bringing out your Altair. Your Altair would then bring back your Deneb. Your Deneb would then search you out another monster that you would need, maybe a Altair, Unukalai, Vega, Alsam, any of that lot, and then you can now overlay those into Patelamais if you wanted to, and obviously that was kind of a nice little 2-card combo play that you had going with the deck. Next up we play double Vega. Now a few people play triple Vega, which you can do. The only issue is opening up with multiple Vegas doesn't really get you much help, because Vega can't special summon itself. Yes, it can work really well. Like in the Skybridge example, if you Vega into an Unukalai, Unukalai dumps Deneb, turn Unukalai or Vega into an Altair, Altair would bring back Deneb, you then have 3 Satellarknight monsters on board and a Satellarknight monster in hand. That means you could then go straight into a Trevere, or you could go into a Deltaros if you wanted to. Now, obviously, that is a bit more specific, but the risk of clogging with Vegas is too high at 3. At 2 is just enough, because don't forget as well, you can search it for future plays if you need to. I personally like to play the one Alsham, just because if you're in a tight spot, or if you're in time or anything like that, an Alsham can actually win you game. It has actually won me a couple of games in time before, because not many people expect it to be played, so it basically burns your opponent for a K every time it's summoned, and obviously it can only be done once per turn. But because you play quite a lot of revival cards in this deck, and of course send effects, being able to bring out Alsham, overlay Alsham, detach Alsham to do something, and then bring it back with Call of the Haunted, back to the front, anything like that, then obviously you're constantly burning away at your opponent. Yes, it won't get you a full 8k game, but it can definitely make the difference to win you game. I play the one Rigel. Now this is just to kind of boost up, so you target a Satellarknight monster you control on the field against 500 attack, but you send it to the graveyard during the end phase. Now, 9 times out of 10 you'll put it on one of your monsters, just to beat over a high monster. So this was more useful in the Winder days, because this was a nice little 1-card Winder out where you would normal summon him, give him the extra 500, beat over Winder, then start doing your plays, and then hopefully overlay or link with this guy so you don't lose him, and leave your board defenseless. Now it is just an option, you don't have to play him. I just quite like playing him because he is another Satellarknight name to be shuffled back with Sirius, which we play at 1 as well, only because we've lost Diguster Emerald, because Diguster Emerald was very helpful with this deck. You do burn through your resources quite quickly, and Sirius kind of shuffles 3 Satellarknight monsters in your graveyard, and then you get to draw 1. So he's better late game, but you can, again, like I said, search him with the Neb to make the plays go off that way. Now, it is an option to play either of these 2. You can drop them, or either of these 3, to be totally honest. You could bump Alsham up if you wanted to, but in my personal opinion, 1s is more than enough for these guys. If you do decide to take these guys out, I would probably put in more hand traps, so I'd probably put in like your ghost ogres and stuff like that, because the only hand trap I play is the one at max C. Now, if you do want to make it more competitive, of course, you put in your ashes, you put in your ghost ogres, and you take out some of the traps, which when I go through the traps, I'll explain why I've got them in, and then you can obviously take them out for your other traps, if you for your hand traps if you want to. Now, we've got triple Twin Twister, because sometimes getting stuff to the graveyard, you can't always rely on Unokalai, so Twin Twister can actually do you quite a hefty job dealing with your opponent's back row, like getting rid of their strikes and warnings. Even though you've got Satellarknight Alpha, it's kind of not always in play or ready to go. So Twin Twistering, clearing off your opponent's back row, maybe putting, because you've got like Call of the Haunted or Back to the Front set, putting like a Deneb or an Altair into your graveyard. You can then use them in the end phase, bring them back and kind of go that way. Speaking of the Devils, we've got 2 Satellarknight Skybridge. I absolutely love this card. I loved it when it first came out. You target Satellarknight monster that you control, you special summon one Satellarknight monster with a different name from your deck, and then if you do, you shuffle the targeted monster into the deck. So it's kind of a nice way of getting around certain spell speed 2 cards as well. So for example, if your opponent was going to like Sleeper and they go, right, I'm going to activate Sleeper, I'm going to destroy your Unokalai, you chain Satellarknight Skybridge, you get to special summon one out, shuffle it back to finish off the resolve. And then obviously your opponent has lost its target, which is very, very cool as well. I then play double pot Desires. I don't like playing 3 Desires because you'll always draw into the 3rd Desires. 2 is more than enough, and because you play 3s of pretty much everything in the deck, or your main monsters and some of your traps, Desires isn't that bad to be doing anyway. The 1 Rhoda to search any of your monsters out because they're all warriors, and the 1 Soul Charge because obviously that can bring you back from the brink, and of course can get you a Trevere, and a Trevere can then bounce everything back to your hand for you to use again and kind of move your place forward. For the traps, we play triple Satellarknight Alpha. This is an incredibly powerful card. So when a spell, trap or monster effect is activated, you send a face-up Satellarknight monster you control to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it, and then you get to draw 1 card. So it's a nice little plus and revival. It's not once per turn, so if you had like a Call of the Haunted, you could bring back one of your Tellarknights that you've just sent off of this, then use a second one and just go over and over and over again. So still an incredibly powerful card. Next up, I play triple Call of the Haunted, and I like to play, personally, triple Back to the Front. Now, I know why people play Oasis of the Dragon Souls, because they're continuous spells and traps. If you get a Trevere on board, you get to bounce them back and you get to recycle them and use them again. That's completely fine, not an issue. You could also try a 2, 2, and 2. The reason I like Back to the Front is because it does the exact same thing that Oasis of Dragon Souls does, but it doesn't turn my monsters into a worm, and it's not continuous, so my opponent can't disrupt it with like an MST or anything like that. So it does give me a couple of options to play around things. Like I said, a 2-2-2 could work really, really well as well, just to kind of recycle back with your Trevere plays to give you more Call of the Haunted plays. Now, next up, these are what your hand traps can be. I like playing 3 Fiendish Chain. Now, you can take these out for hand traps, no arguments about it. The reason I'm playing 3 Fiendish Chain is because I was looking into it and I was like, it would be quite cool to play a Masterpiece in this deck, especially when you're leaving cards on the board. So, like, if you can't get into a Trevere and you've got, like, a dead Call of the Haunted and stuff like that, what you could do is you can tribute off your Call of the Haunted, tribute off a Fiendish Chain, or you tribute off Fiendish Chain and a monster, get a Masterpiece on board, start banishing these to do more damage to your opponent, and then if you make it immune by monster effects, then when you make a Trevere, your Masterpiece stays on board, so it's very, very nice to kind of still have a beta on board that your opponent's going to struggle to deal with. For the remainder of our traps, we play the 1 Solemn Warning and triple Anti-Spell Fragrance. Now again, Anti-Spell Fragrance works the exact same way as your Call of the Haunted and Fiendish Chain, is you can get your opponent into a nice soft loop, in the sense that our spells aren't really that reliant, like, because we've got a couple of quick plays, we can set them, and obviously we do have to wait a turn, and then obviously we play a lower count of spells, so you don't need to rely on your spells as heavily. So activating your Anti-Spell Fragrance, what you can do is you make your Trevere, you bounce your anti-spells back to hand, you play all of your spells that you need to do, then you obviously set your anti-spell, you use Trevere's effect, use Trevere's effect to rip one from your opponent's hand, set anti-spell, set more traps, play partial turn. During your opponent's standby phase, you activate an anti-spell. If they haven't got like an MST or an out to it, you then just cut them back in a lot, because then they're then going to either have to hold all their cards in their hand or set all their cards. And then you're just like, cool, my Trevere's going to do its job. I'm going to make another Trevere next turn because I've brought back traps. So let's say you've got your Call of the Haunted in play. Activate that, bring back more monsters, start your plays off again, make a Trevere, bounce everything again. rip another one from your opponent's hand, attack directly for 21, and then set your Call of Hornets, and you just kind of go round in a nice little stop loop. Now this was a painful loop during the Necros format because they relied on spells, and just being able to do Trevere was always incredibly powerful. Now obviously in this kind of day and age, what you'd have to do is you'd have to get rid of your Trevere with a Link monster, and then of course go on from there. Which, now moving on to the extra deck, I'll show you the ways that you can get out of that, and then of course you get to shuffle everything back as well. So, for our Link monsters, we start off with the one Proxy Dragon, obviously a nice little way of getting rid of it, but your better one to be going into, which you might actually want to play two of, is an Akeshic Magician, because obviously all your monsters, bar your Max C, are warrior type monsters, so you can obviously use a Satellarknight Trevere. You make a Akeshic Magician, maybe bounce one of your opponent's cards in front of it if you need to. Then, of course, you can make a Trevere down here, put your Akeshic Magician back to your extra deck, and you kind of soft loop your opponent there. And then, of course, you've got a Trevere down here, so you can make a Trevere up there as well, and it kind of keeps going. The one Deco Talker, those two are pretty much your staple Link monsters in the deck. And then we play triple Satellarknight Trevere because this is your main card you want to be playing for. Double Dark Ptolemaios, Dark Tellarknight Ptolemaios, incredibly powerful card. It's a shame we didn't get this before the whole Link effect and maybe before Ptolemaios. The artwork is amazing, like Infernoid, Shadows, it's like just everything crushed together. It's really, really cool. But it's just a bit of a shame that we didn't get this. Or, like, if this effect, the requirements of 2 level 4 Tellarknight monsters wasn't what Ptolemaios had. And of course, like you see, we've got it in Invasion Venom, so it was a massive disappointment to get it that late. I play the one Deltaros. I really, really like Deltaros. You detach, you pop. You can play the Star Seraph engine in this deck if you want, but then you focus more on Deltaros than you do Trevere, because Trevere requires 3 level 4 Tellarknight monsters. The one Satellarknight Constellar Diamond, just to kind of complete the family. It's still incredibly powerful, shuts off Dark Monsters effects. And I believe it's any card sent to the graveyard is returned. Let me just double check. So obviously you can tag this on top of one of your 10 line monsters as well, so that's another way of getting rid of a Trevere, and then slowing down your opponent during their turn as well. While it has Xyz material, neither player can send cards from their deck to the graveyard, and any card that returns from the graveyard to the hand is banished instead. So that's a nice little loop there. And then during either player's turn, when an opponent's Dark Monster activates its effect, you detach material and negate the activation and destroy it. So he's less relevant now, but he's still very, very cool to have in the deck as a nice little out. You can, of course, like I said, you can bump out a Deltaros if you want, you can put another Akeshic Magician. It's entirely up to you. The other rank 4s I like to play is a Bujinke Tsukiyomi, because this can actually help just get your stuff to the graveyard. Like if you've got loads of traps and it's a little bit of a later game, rather than going into your Trevere straight off, make your Tsukiyomi, use Tsukiyomi's effect to pitch your cards to the graveyard, then activate like a Call of the Haunted to bring back your Deneb, Artears, whatever, get their effects off. You can use them to link up if you want, and kind of push plays forward, or you can use them to link up, go into your Trevere, bounce everything back to hand, recycle your traps again, and if you haven't used your normal summon, you get to move plays forward that way as well, and then sometimes that can lead you to game. One Gargoyle Samurai, one Tornado Dragon, one Baguska for the slower games, and of course finally the one number 86 Heroic Champion Robromniad. It's basically just a game win con. Like you get 5 10-line monsters on the board, which isn't too hard when you've got your spells and traps plays. You get him on board, you've pretty much got a gameplay to kind of go through and push through your opponent. Obviously that's before Kaijus came into effect when he was as powerful as he was, but he's still an incredibly powerful monster that can kind of deal with a lot your opponent's got thrown at him, that they can throw at you, and kind of push you through the game. Again, like now, I don't expect Tellarknights to be absolutely dominating the metas, but it's still an incredibly fun deck to kind of recycle and play around with. Now, obviously, I would like a Tellarknight monster, Link monster, but what you've got to bear in mind is with the Link mechanic itself and the way Trevere works, the best way of making the Link monster is Link monster would literally have to stay unaffected by other monster effects, and that could be quite busted, because then if it's unaffected by other monster effects, it means your Trevere can't bounce it, which means you still maintain board presence, which is very, very cool and very, very powerful to kind of help you loop around and push forward. So fingers crossed, you know, Link Reigns 2, hopefully, can come out and that what it can give us. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on absolutely anything we do. Like I've said, we are building up to our 2nd year anniversary and there will be an amazing week's worth of giveaway. Yes, I did say a week's worth of giveaway for all of our viewers and all of our subscribers. So don't forget to check that out, and obviously like our Facebook page as well so you don't miss out on any of the updates, so you know exactly what's coming and when it's going to come, so you're bang on the point. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Have a very, very good New Year's. And as always, guys, happy dueling. If you like that video, why not check out our other videos available? We've got more deck profiles, pack openings, and of course duels. And don't forget to click on the most important button of all, that subscribe button, right in the bottom left hand corner.